Let's begin. Welcome along. Webinar number 10. I wasn't sure if we were going to get past 9 actually, but I'm really pleased that a number of people really got, you're all on the line. So thank you very much for your support in the program thus far. I have to say, I'm actually really enjoying giving these. I mentioned to one or two people over the last week or so, it's a really good way for me of taking whatever's in my head and putting it down on a metaphorical piece of paper. No mean feat, as anyone who's close to me will tell you. But there are some just basics that I felt were worth sharing, and today we're going to be talking about networking, which takes many different forms normally, but at the moment takes only one form, of course, which is doing it online, something we probably, other than the past 3-4 months, online networking is something that probably wasn't a thing. Probably it may have been in some cultures, but not in others. Welcome along if you're just joining. Here we go. Again, let's just expand that. We see who's on the line. Welcome along if you're just joining, and thank you for tuning in. Right, I was talking about networking, and it's probably only been a few months since networking online has been a thing at all. So it's something we've got to get our heads around. And let's not take a guess on when we're going to be able to network face to face, but it won't be too long. And it may take a slightly different form, social distancing and 2 meters, 1 meters, whether it's face to face, literally opposite each other, or whether it's side by side, Brazilian style, where you're sat named after the way people eat their meals, the side by side. That's known as I understand it, a Brazilian style. That will dictate how far apart we have to sit, stand, whatever. But it says the world knows a few new things that it didn't need to know probably 3-4 months ago. So here we are. So anyway, as I say, welcome along. Just be great. I know some of us know, and Julius, welcome along to the program too. Just if you would, just put in your location, your LinkedIn URL, if you've got that to hand, that would be great. I've noticed some networking going on, which I'm really thrilled to see, and almost an unexpected but a very welcome outcome of some of these events. It'd be helpful to know, just before we get into the meat and potatoes, if you like. I'll try and find a more diplomatic way or politically correct way of phrasing that for next week. But just as before we get into the core essence of the webinar, just where you would currently score yourself in confidence in networking. Just a number between 1 and 10. 1, not so good. 10, I am a god at networking, and I wouldn't put myself at 10 at all. But also just thinking forward on subjects that I'd really like to talk about and where I think there might be some need is in how interested, scale of 1 to 10, would you be in a brilliant basics? I'm kind of hoping the answer is approximately yes, because that's what I'm going to be doing next week. And I'll tell you for why. I thought everyone had this kind of mastered, but I happened to be on a webinar not this time last week, but last week. And I was surprised. It was a basics, and there were some pretty established business people on the line. I was surprised at some of the questions that were asked, and some of them were really quite basic. And so I think there might be demand in the market for just some really basic stuff. Before you get into using your LinkedIn as a lead generator, which of course it is, but just answering the basics first. Anyway, so that's enough about that. To say hi to some of you again, Keith Roselle. I'm a sales coach, and I'm also visiting lecturer in professional selling at Aston Business School, one of the top business schools in the world. I'm going to give some key figures. What I've noticed with interest over the last few webinars, we've had 304 participants over these last 9 weeks, not including today. 202 of those have been unique. and 27 of those have come forward for a 15-minute one-to-one complimentary session. And the reason I tell you that is not to say there's no indication of me, though hopefully it says something positive. But I want to encourage as many people to come forward for if you genuinely want a one-to-one to talk about a particular subject. I'm really happy to do that for free and with no expectation or obligation of anything else going forward. But if there's something that you want to ask me one-to-one and get a bespoke answer instead of generalities, then please do feel free. Some people have actually asked for more than one during the series, and I'm okay with that too. I generally tend to do them on a Monday or a Tuesday, and I can fit them in, especially there's no travel required. That's a beautiful thing. So anyway, I won't labour that. Thank you for your recommendations. I am really grateful for those. And I just want to, before we really start getting going, is we've released a new episode on Thrive in Sales, a particularly special one with a guy called Tim Clark, who's the CEO of Uncrushed, based in California, and he's a really senior sales guy at Salesforce, whom some of you may know that organization, but they've allowed him to found his own organization called Uncrushed, which talks about mental health, not just for men, but mental health in general. And so I'm really pleased to be able to release that today. Okay, so just you'll be familiar with this chart now. We are here today, just in case you're wondering, where does networking fit? It fits into your go-to-market strategy, and it's as valid, I believe, as social networking, as LinkedIn, as prospecting, cold calling. Networking fits right there and is something that you should all be thinking about in some way, shape, or form. Okay. The rest of it: lead gen, deal qualification, pursuit strategy, negotiate, close, maximizing yield, which we talked about last week. All fit there too, but this is part of go to market. And just to encapsulate this again, you at the center of your business ecosystem, with your customers, your supply chain, your professional network, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, if you use that for business, your Instagram, etc., and the wider market, the marketplace that you operate in. You can all affect those for the positive by using networking skillfully and to your advantage. It really is, I believe, at the heart of everything that you do. So the definition of networking, there are multiple different definitions. Here's a few that I've penned. Is the action or process of interacting with others. That's the key. So to turn up at a networking event and stand there on your iPhone or your BlackBerry doing your email, as I've done, because believe it or not, I do struggle from time to time, having that first conversation at a networking event. And I'll talk to you about when I first moved to Birmingham a couple of years ago, and how I sort of lived that in. That was a lived experience for me. So interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. That's the primary reason we go for networking. Or another definition might be the activity of meeting people who might be useful to know. Now that can be beyond networking, frankly. You can meet those at almost, conferences. Networking is where you go, I think, specifically to meet others and discuss ideas. But there could be trade shows, there could be exhibitions, there could be conferences where they become networking almost as a byproduct or an added bonus, if you like, of the function itself. And in accordance with another definition is the exchange of information and ideas. And so often at networking events, you'll find a guest speaker. And some of you may already have done those. I know I've done a few as well. And just in case you're wondering, if anyone wants to volunteer me to come and speak for their particular group, I'm only too happy to do that, particularly while over Zoom. And I'm happy to do more of those. Generally, where you share a special interest or a common interest, and it's normally in an informal social setting. Certainly I prefer informal approaches, and I've really enjoyed not wearing a tie for the last 2 or 3 years. That's been a beautiful thing. So where did it all start? Well, it probably started a long time ago, but I thought of interest was the birth of the coffee houses in London specifically, but in Bristol and in other parts of the United Kingdom. And here's one from 1652, which is at the very start of that sort of dynamic, if you like. And the reason coffee houses became popular is because they used to meet in a tavern or an inn at the time, but everyone got too drunk. Drinking all that ale and wines or whatever it was at the time, and the conversations went absolutely nowhere. And they figured we need to find a way that we can still meet socially, discuss ideas, and it might be philosophy, and it might be business, it might be the futures market. And we're right in the heart of the East India Company, the Dutch East India Company at this time. We're talking about aspects of international trade, who's doing what, political whispering, all those things stemmed from the coffee houses in the 17th century. So perhaps an interesting aside. So this is nothing new. That's the point. Nothing new. It takes a new form, and business adapts and the world adapts, as we're currently seeing, which is why you're sitting where you are and I'm sitting where I am. But there's no substitute for human contact. But by God, video communications actually comes surprisingly close sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to talk about networking now as before the event, during the event, and after the event. So just in case you think there's a bit of planning involved, there is. And planning is sometimes the bane of certainly in my life. It's something one generally tends to do planning on your own. I'm a social person. I like being around people and discussing ideas and all of that, but actually some planning is required. And I just want to go through a few ideas, see if this jogs any thoughts for you. So as I said, part of your go-to-market strategy, what's the goal? What is the goal of networking? The goal, I believe, is to start the journey of creating, building, and nurturing productive relationships, which are all underpinned by trust. Now, I hope amongst the series of webinars that we've talked about and engaged in over the past few weeks, and sales is sometimes a bit of a dirty word. Certainly, it's not got the reputation that it should have in the UK. I believe trust is at the heart of everything we say, do, agree, all of those things, all underpinned by trust. So if you enter into the spirit of networking based on trust, I believe that's a good thing. If you don't, if you just think it's an opportunity to go sell your stuff, that's a little myopic and probably misguided, and things will happen to you that you wouldn't ideally like. Okay, so that's the spirit that we enter into it. There's also a decision point here. Do you want to go free networking, or are you happy to pay as part of your go-to-market strategy, your marketing budget? Are you happy to pay to belong to certain groups or go to certain events? And there's a decision point. Now, if you're just starting out, or if you just want to go practicing, my recommendation is you should look at some free groups, and there are some around, and I'll talk about those a little bit later on. But that's a decision point for you, and only you can really make that decision, or you or your coach if you have one. Point is, because it's about building relationships, the ideal relationships that you want to build are those that are in your sort of target customers. You're going to go where your customers are most likely to hang out. Now, depending on what your value proposition is, we talked about that earlier on in the series, that will guide you as to where your target market is most likely to be. Just like all activities, marketing activities, we can debate for a long time whether this is a sales activity or a marketing activity. Certainly a grey area. It's very hard to determine return on investment and ROI for your networking. And I'll talk about that in more detail, but it's not easy. It's a bit like a Facebook campaign. You don't really know what was it Voltaire said? He said something like, how do I know if I've had a good day? It's not even the evening yet. You don't really know until you're at the end of that journey, and you look back with the benefit of hindsight as to whether you've got a reasonable rate of return. But there are some signs that we can kind of look for. My message is you've got to give it 12 months. And that's not 12 months spread across, 24 different groups. Make your decision about where you're going to go networking, where you're most likely to get a return, an acceptable return. Welcome along, Darren. Within 12 months. So give it 12 months, give it some time before you start thinking this is working, this is not working, or whatever. Okay, so next. So again, this is before the event, and I'm going to talk about comfort zones in just a second. This is a mindset thing. It's about getting your Marlon Brando, before he went on stage, he was talking about his role in The Godfather, made back in, I think, 1972. He used to ask for several minutes before each take so he could get his mind into the zone. And as brilliant an actor as he was, he still needed a little bit of time to get his head into the zone. So many people look before they leap. They just jump straight in without sort of getting their heads in the zone, and you find out 20 minutes into your networking event that actually you're not talking about the right things, you're not demonstrating the right behaviors, you're not talking to the right people. So this is worth thinking about beforehand. And it takes a bit of confidence. You are, if you're, should we say, a more introverted type that are not that comfortable speaking to people, you may be brilliant at what you do, at what your business is, but maybe speaking to people, particularly relative strangers, you may be uncomfortable in doing that. So it's doubly important for you to take just a moment or so. I'll let you decide how long that moment is, as to getting your mind into gear and preparing yourself to have those conversations and putting yourself out there. That's what I'm trying to say. Can you get a copy of the delegate list in advance? This is critical. Not everyone does this. In fact, too few people do it. But I believe, and you certainly shouldn't be given email addresses or telephone numbers or anything like that. But it's not breaching, just in case anyone is going to tell you, I can tell you it now, it's not. It's not breaching GDPR if you're going into public space. For a networking event, it's not breaching GDPR to disclose the delegate list, and that could be just the name or the name and the company. And they may, and when you sign up via Eventbrite or whatever, you are probably waiving your rights to anonymity somewhere along the line. Most people would be okay with that, and if they weren't okay, then I'd question why they're coming. So try and get hold of the delegate list, and that's a real asset. So it will help you kind of understand who's going to be there, and of course, not everyone turns up that's on the delegate list. I understand that, but it'll understand who's to be there and how. Therefore, who do you want to speak to, so you can prioritize what you're going to talk about. You can prioritize what contacts you're going to make at that event. You can also goal set here. How many people do you want to meet? If you're going to a 1 hour networking event, how many people is it reasonable that you could get into a dialogue about what you do, about what they do, and have a general discussion, sharing ideas and opportunities, if you like. Yes, that's true too, David, as well. Yeah, thank you. Right, so someone said, what is tips, trends, implications, possibilities, solutions. I think I might have meant that earlier as tips, i.e. helpful hints, not necessarily tips. But anyway, trends, that's the market dynamics, if you like, trends, implications, possibilities, solutions. But back to networking and goal setting. How many people do you want to meet? Is it 3? Is it 10? Whatever you feel is, and stretch yourself a little bit. That's why I've listed this diagram here. It's just a silly thing that I kind of dreamt. There's your comfort zone, which we're all comfortable in operating in by definition. But the personal development, your personal development, mine, is by being just a little bit out of your comfort zone, or sometimes way outside of your comfort zone. If we get a chance at the end of this, I'll tell you something that happened to me at Lancaster University. Anyway, so goal set, how many people do you want to meet? And online works differently to in-person networking. Clearly, there are certain dynamics that you can't reproduce no matter how great the technology is. Okay, so online works like this, which we took, I think, a couple of webinars ago. That was professional flinches. Some of them, I might have taken that one a bit too soon, actually, for the professional French. Anyway, so it's harder to make an impact with online events. Would you just give me 1 second? Sorry. It's a live show. Right, so it's harder to make an impact on personal, on online events because that dynamic, that human dynamic is not there. You know, and there are certain people who are just brilliant at what they do that can make that dynamic work, but it's very, very hard, and you have to practice a lot to do that, to really look at someone right in the eyes, right through that camera lens, and out through your own screen, to make you feel like you're the only person in the room and they're talking to you. And newscasters, Sophie Rayworth, Martin Lewis, all of those guys, Hugh Pym, all of those guys are really, really good at talking to the camera and making you seem like you're the only person in the room. They're talking to you and you alone, not the millions of others that are watching as well. That's a great gift. I don't pretend to have anywhere near that, but I recognize it's really, really hard. Okay, so if you are networking, we're not really networking right now, but it's a byproduct of having a webinar like this. Many of you are doing this already, which is great. So arrive early, because IT can really let you down if you're not careful, especially if you've not clicked on that link before. Cookies and all that stuff that I don't really know about, but they take time to settle down. So arrive early, somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes early. You can, on Zoom, I won't go into the ins and outs now, but you can rename yourself. Instead of being and Darren has already done that, I noticed. So instead of being Darren Meeks, you can be Spritz Monkey or whatever name of the company you are. But it's ideal to have someone's first name at the very least, and maybe their company name thereafter. So I've already done that on my screen. So that's a really good thing for promoting your business. It's almost your business card, if you like. Online is, can you rename yourself? Most webinars or online networking events will allow you to do that via Zoom or whatever other, whether it's Blue Jeans or Teams or whatever they're using. Have your pitch ready. Now, we've already talked about this in value proposition. It's so important. Depending on which networking event you go to, you're going to be given somewhere between 30 seconds and 60 seconds to pitch your company. If you are given the opportunity to pitch, some don't allow you, so check beforehand if you're going to have that benefit, but practice it several times. And I didn't mean to sound egotistical, but I do that before I go to an online event because I want to get it clear in my own mind, and I really want the person on the other side of the screen to understand who I am, what I do, how I could help them, and a call to action as well as part of that pitch that we've already talked about. I think it's webinar number 2 if anyone else wants to access the YouTube again. Look into the camera like I'm doing right now, so you get the best experience possible of looking someone directly in the eyes, so to speak. So if I look at my screen just now with everyone else on the screen just now, I'm not looking you in the eyes, I'm looking well away. But if I look into the screen, then I'm looking all of you pretty much in the eyes. It's as close as you're ever going to get for the best possible human interaction experience. And remember also that you are on camera throughout the webinar. So many people lose their sense of self. It's really amusing. And I'll go into, as you can see, things I've seen on lockdown. I'll go into that in just a second. But remember, you are on camera all the time. No matter how small your video piece might be, you are on camera. And if you're going to sometimes you need to take a 2-minute comfort break during the middle of an event. That's human nature. We'll need to do that. So rather than see you get up and get out of your seat, what you can actually do is you can stop your video, as I think I've just done now. If you load your photo, your profile photo, onto your Zoom account, that's really, really helpful. That shows people that you're still present, you're still engaged and connected in the event, but you've just stepped away just for a second, or I don't know, you're taking a sneaky drink of coffee like I am. Okay, so let's turn that off right now. There we go. So we're back in the room. The lights come on my camera. So all the time the light is on in your camera. If you have that, you are on camera. So just remember to behave yourself. So what's next? We are just one second. Phase one Zoom account, we talked about that, and Wi-Fi issues. So just be aware that you can get Wi-Fi issues at any time. They don't discriminate, particularly in the afternoon, it would seem. So 11 o'clock is probably the best time for me to hold one of these. I have noticed, and I said a couple of webinars ago, that prior to COVID-19 and lockdown, Zoom had about 10 million daily logons in its sort of central system. And a couple of weeks back, maybe 3 weeks ago, Zoom's average daily logon number was 300 million. So 30-fold increase in a little over a couple of months. And as heroic as I think their achievements have been, sometimes you just can't keep up with demand. That's what a beautiful place that is to be. But the reality is you can get Wi-Fi issues in the afternoon, with it being America coming online and the Western world, if you like, coming more online, more activity. So if you're going to just be aware that if it's in the afternoon, you might get Wi-Fi issues. So I would disconnect whatever else. I disconnected my phone from Wi-Fi just now because I don't. And my wife is on the room and the other on a video call with her chief exec. So who knows what's going to happen? I think we'll be okay. We have a new connection now, and fingers crossed, inshallah, we'll be okay. All right. So webinars can also become networking events. I've already majored on that. You need to make sure, actually, that they become networking events. If you're on a webinar, take note of who else is on there. Is there anyone else in your target market that you want to engage with? Can you connect with them? Get into a discussion. What do you think about the webinar? Something that connects you, and it might be that event. But if there's someone that you really want to talk to, or they work for a company that you really want to talk to, then maybe that's your opportunity to start proactively developing opportunities of your own. So here's what I've seen over the last, should we say, 3 months. Eating is generally not a good thing to do. We all have to eat, we understand that, and sometimes you might be on, as my wife can be, 7 or 8 video calls a day, and it's difficult to juggle all of that. Drinking is absolutely fine. I wouldn't suggest it was alcoholic, but tea, coffee, water, all of those soft drinks, whatever it is, that's fine. I know that's the case because Debrett's, which is wherever I go, just to see what's the social niceties of the day. Thank you very much, David. Do you agree? But that's Debrett's is just like, well, that's what I think. What does Debrett's think? And I'll go with whatever they think. Eating, generally not. But I've seen people eating crisps with their microphone on, and also it's incredibly disruptive, and it just doesn't look professional. Yeah, I've seen that, and because people just don't, they somehow just lose an awareness that they're on camera. So best not pick your nose. That's not a great thing to do, or whatever it is that you're kind of doing. And wearing only their underwear underneath, which each to their own. But when you get up from your desk and you're kind of walking out to answer the door or whatever it is, just be aware that all of a sudden people have got an expanded view because this is real life, right? So that's what I've seen. Just be aware of these are the things that can make your day or not, as the case may be. All right, so actually at the event, during the event, so we've done the planning, we've decided who we want to talk to, we've prioritized that, we've got the delegate list if there is one with us, we've prioritized. We turn up at the end. Almost the first thing that will happen is they will give you a badge. Now, can I see in the chat box, because there's always a series of great debates, what side of your body do you put your badge on? Just in the chat box. Let's have a quick look, see where everyone's heads are at. Left, yeah. Thank you, David. That's kind of you. Okay, left. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, left. As I'm right-handed. Interesting. So you've got some justification. And it's not in Debrett's because they don't talk about this. Lanyards as women rarely. Yeah. Okay. No lanyard. If you've got lanyard, fantastic. Sometimes you don't get that control. Some of you will have had your own badges made, metal sort of magnetic badges. Fantastic if you have. If you're, shall we say, frugal like me, and you'll use one of their badges, it actually, the networking protocol is it goes on the right side. So now I've got mirror on my video, so it's probably looking as though it's the left, but it actually goes on your right breast. And I'll tell you why that is when you social distancing, you may not be able to do this, but the received wisdom was that yes, is that when you go to shake hands, your chest moves towards the other person, makes your badge easier to read, and they can see your name as well. That's the thinking about it. So it goes on the right hand side. Plus, and how can I say this diplomatically? Women in the room, please be very careful where you place yours, because sometimes the wrong impression can be created when you're trying to read someone's name badge, and the conversation gets on the wrong footing, off on the wrong footing. So just to make it easy, it goes on the right hand side. I know it's received wisdom that it's always the left hand side because it's right-handed. It's more awkward, but that is the correct place to do that. There you go. Yeah, thank you very much. Righto. So if you're nervous or shy, ask for help. Seek out either someone that's representing the firm that's putting on the networking event or the host. Ask for help if it's your first time there, or even if you've been there a number of times, still perhaps a little bit shy. And we are British. Some of us are pretty reserved, and that's fine. You should always bring your authentic self to these events. Just ask for a bit of help. You need to know what to say in advance. I'm going to bang on now about elevator pitch or value proposition. You should have this drilled by now. My name's, for example, David Summers. This is what I do. And so, because you are going to be asked that if you get involved in another conversation, that's almost the first thing you'll be asked. Who are you? What do you do? So you need to have that rather than think about it multiple times during that event. You can just, if it's drilled into you, it'll be muscle memory. You'll instantly, I don't want to say regurgitate, but you'll instantly be able to repeat. And your opening elevator pitch as such, it's not a pitch as such, but a positioning statement is 8 to 10 seconds. That's all it is. We don't want a diatribe. We want 8 to 10 seconds. Oh, okay, that's very interesting. David or Ralph, or whatever it is, excellent. Welcome along to our group. And they carry on. Anyway, I know I'm majoring on this because this is really, really important, because it's creating that all important first impression. Remember also, it's a conversation, not an interrogation. However, if you've been to one or two networking events, it can almost seem as though you've got the spotlight beaming on you. So tell me what it is you want to do. Or why are you here? And all of those kind of things. You want to make people feel comfortable, whether you're a representative at that event or whether you're hosting the event or whatever it happens to be. And this drives me mad. There is nothing more tiresome than someone who's in constant sales mode. Now, as a sales trainer, you're going to find that somewhat unbelievable. I've just said those words. But if you, and I've come across this a few times with people selling, should we say, homeopathic remedies, with coffee, probably all wonderful products. But some people are in constant buy my product sales mode, and it's tiresome. As I said before, this is about building, creating, nurturing relationships for the long term. And I'll come on to that a bit more. It is not about, hi, my name's Keith. Do you want to buy my coffee? Whatever other product about. It's not about that. Do not take notice of the next thing that comes on the screen. People will avoid you because you are constantly in that zone. Do you want to buy my product? It's about building relationships and trust. I can't overemphasize that. Okay, right. So, 1 second. Sorry. So, during the event, so we've got our badge. We put it on the right side so everyone can read it. And now we want to go to talk to some people. So this is a networking event. I have a feeling this is an event that I either took the photo to or I found it or something. Anyway, I didn't take this photo. Can't remember how I came across it. Probably Shutterstock. Anyway, here's the point. The point is, this looks like a scene from any other networking event. It looks authentic to me as opposed to staged. And you'll notice there are groups of people in the immediate vicinity. Just on the left of the picture, there's 2 people talking. They're talking directly opposite each other. And here's a group of 4 who look pretty informal. The chap in the light coloured jacket seems to be talking, and everyone else is either listening or engaging with them, but it looks pretty relaxed. That's them. So observe what's going on. That's kind of my point. So how to break into a circle? Well, first of all, you've got to read the body language. Now, you'll see that they are positioned. They're not closed in a circle. There is an opening there for more people to step into, and this just happens at the subconscious human level. It's not because they don't like what the guy's saying. It's because they are unconsciously positioning themselves that they're open. It's an open circle. It's not closed. They're open for more people to come in, and so you would, because we're all polite, we would say, do you mind if I step in? Don't stop the conversation. Do you mind if I join you? They'll almost certainly say yes. It would be unbelievable if they said no. If you're in a closed circle and you try to break in, there's a high chance, it's closed for a reason, there's a high chance that they would say no. So just be careful about that. So just ask something really gentle. Mind if I join you? And don't stop the conversation. Please carry on. I'll just listen in and join in as and when appropriate. Dead simple. I hope most people would be able to be comfortable with that. Dead simple. So about twosome. So the people there on the left-hand side of the screen. Now, the body language situation there is that they're talking directly to one another, although there is a little bit of distance. So I would say that I wouldn't approach them simply because they are talking directly to each other. They might be having a confidential or an intimate conversation, and I wouldn't be approaching them. I'd be looking for the people, for groups, if you like, that are representative of the ones on the right-hand side. Okay, so you've introduced yourselves, you've had a conversation, but you're conscious that you've swapped business cards, probably. Now, whether we're still doing that in a couple of months' time, I don't know. A lot of this will have to adapt to what the constraints that the government advises or science advises as we look forward. So you will, if you're on LinkedIn, Gee, I forgot about this. Can everyone grab hold of their phones just at the moment? Just at the moment. I just want to show you a really cool thing about this, because we're almost certainly going to have to avoid hand contact with everyone that's not in your bubble. If you've got the LinkedIn app on your phone, just a minute, mine's on one of the, yeah, just open it up at the minute. Now I've got an iPhone, you may have an iPhone or something different, but if you open up the app, on the bottom left hand corner, you're going to have what looks like two heads, and it says My Network. If you put your finger on my network at the minute, it's going to come up with a number of faces that people you may know, but in the bottom right hand corner, it's going to have a blue icon with a person and a plus on it. Now I know there's no one in the room, we're networking, but just press that button, and on my iPhone it gives me three options, and the one that you want is Find Nearby. If you just click on that a second, now it will be remarkable if anyone else is in the room at the moment, but if you click on that button and you've got Bluetooth enabled and all of those things, it's going to open up a particular page. Let's just see if the camera can get that. And then anyone else that's within, say, 10 meters of you that lands on that page, you'll see their LinkedIn profile, and you'll be able to press on their profile and you'll be able to connect with them. And I think that's going to form the business card exchange going forward. Some of you that are perhaps more au fait with technology than I will suggest a better method. And I know there's a QR scan code, which I don't profess to be a master in, but I think it's going to be representative. There you go. There's going to be representative of a handshake for at least the next, literally, year, possibly even 2 years before we're able to shake hands with anyone and everyone. And if you're like me, you're going to wash your hands straight away after you've finished anyway, because I'm like that. So let's move swiftly on before I get myself into big trouble. Okay, right. So how to exit a group. So be diplomatic. I'm saying be diplomatic. People's feelings are on the line, on the line here. So don't be like I think my first ever networking event was a few years ago. This person struck up a conversation with me, and they said, you know, who are you? What do I do? And I said, Keith, I work for Hewlett Packard. That's how long ago it was. I work for Hewlett Packard, and I do this. And they screwed their face up. They said, oh, you're not in my target market, and walked off. And I was like, well, what did I do? What did I do wrong? I did nothing wrong. But so there are certain behaviors that you should be observing. Just be nice to people, because you're creating an impression. So the way to politely disengage, not straight away, have a conversation. Practice. If they're not in your target market, it doesn't matter. You're building relationships, because the chances are they know someone that's in your target market somewhere. So if you build a relationship with them, that will give you access to those people. I need to speed on now. I'm taking far too long. So definitely don't screw up yourself. Face or do a professional flinch. You know, just kind of give it some time. But the way to disengage is, hey, listen, I'm here to meet a few people. Would you mind? I need to move on now. Would you mind? That's really good. It's very nice to meet you. And wish you every success with the networking event, and kind of move on. That's a way of politely shutting down the conversation and kind of move on to something else. So just be aware. Last thing. So if you're at networking, everything is done with the right hand, whether it's a hand, whatever it is. If you're exchanging LinkedIn contacts, if you're waving instead, or doing something with the right hand, eventually we'll be able to shake hands. I suspect that will come in to being. It's a cultural thing. It's been around for centuries. It was actually, if anyone doesn't know, the reason you shake hands is to inform the other person that you're not carrying a sword. That's where it stems from. And we don't generally tend to do that in public these days anyway. So we're okay. So shaking hands probably will come back. So if you're at a networking event and you're eating or drinking, you should always hold your food or drink in your left hand, so you're not, or rather, so you hold the plate or your drink in your plate. Big one. Let's do this again. You're holding your plate of food in your right hand. You're eating, you're touching the food with your left. And that means that your hand is probably going to get greasy, it's probably going to get dirty or something. You're going to get, if you eat like me, you're going to get chutney everywhere. You know, you don't want to be giving people, if you're doing that with your right hand, you don't want to be giving people dirty right hand. So your right hand is always clean. So hold your plate with the left, shake hands, do that thing. And that's why you should always do it with the left. So that's in Debrett's as well. So if you're in a posh event, you may even have a plate with a little holder for your drink as well. And however long that is going to take to come into effect. Okay, so now if you're the host, or if you are what I would call an established member of that networking group, I would ask you to do these 3 things. First of all, remember that group of 4. I would ask you to invite others. The whole point of a networking event is that you want it to be popular, that you want it to more people to come rather than less people to come, of the right kind, of course, the right target market. I would ask you to invite others, those that perhaps look a little bit shy or nervous. Openly invite them into your group. Diversity of thought, someone else to talk to. It's just great relationships are built that way. You know, just be warm and inviting. People want to come to your events. Invite them into your group. People who feel welcome are much more likely to come back again, and they may bring someone themselves. They may be really valuable, and they may know other people that are really valuable. So if you like, there is an agenda there. Of course, we want this to be productive, meaningful relationships. But at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want people to feel welcome and all the rest of it. So my first experience, I moved to Birmingham for a couple of years back in 2018. Excuse me. And so I was building a business I just started in a brand new city. And I joined the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, for the first time I'd ever been a member of a Chamber of Commerce. I'd never needed to do that before. My companies had already done that for me. And I was lost. I was in a sea of 50 or so faces when I went to this event. And I asked Lauren, that's why I've written her name up there. She was fantastic. I just said, look, this is my first time. She was handing out the badges. This is my first time. Do you mind making an introduction for me? So I enlisted. Now, she had credibility because she organized the events. She had credibility with most of the other people that were attending, and she was really kind. She introduced me to Gerdas, a firm friend of mine today, and it was really, so it was a warm intro. Wouldn't we all like more of those? It was a warm intro, and it was just a way for me to pitch in. I was accepted immediately because I had that warm intro, and it went from strength to strength. And although I haven't done business with Gerdas directly, we have worked and collaborated together on many, many things in the meantime. So it was a nice warm intro. Consider doing that if you're, and I wouldn't consider myself to be a necessarily shy person, but in that context, I was the newcomer and I recognized that, and I needed a little bit of help making those intros. Okay, brilliant. So after your event, relationships and trust, stick to your word. If you've had a conversation with someone, you've committed to doing something like sending them a piece of information, an article, inviting them for a cup of coffee, do it. You are your word. Your word is what you are. I can't remember who said that first of all, but I firmly believe that to be true. Your word is who you are. You definitely shouldn't immediately send your sales pitch. That would be, I think, unethical. It wasn't expected, nor invited, nor solicited. So just kind of be careful about pitching people straight away. Back to relationships and trust. Send a follow-up note after the meeting or event to the host, to people that you've met, It's another way for you to get into their consciousness. Oh yeah, I remember that, met them. They're a really nice person. They're a really interesting person. You're in their mind. And also send a note to the sponsor of the event, who's almost certainly going to be someone senior or influential in that community. And if you're feeling confident about what you do, proactively ask for a speaker slot if you're comfortable doing that. Often at networking events, they'll have a 10-minute or a 20-minute speaker slot, someone who's an expert in their subject. Ask for a speaker slot. That discloses ambition with that networking group and that host. They think this person, provided you know what you're going to say and that has efficacy, then let them know, because otherwise, how are they going to know? And connect on LinkedIn enthusiastically. Even if you haven't shaken hands or met the person directly, if you've got the delegate list, I would connect enthusiastically afterwards. Hi, sorry we didn't get a chance to meet. I was at the event. Hope you enjoyed it. I had a really good time. Blah, blah, blah. Something like that. Make those connections. And I'll talk more about that next week on the LinkedIn Brilliant Basics thing. Remember, with online, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So building that list of connections gives you more chance to be known online, and that's 99% of the goal, rather than in person. You'll know 100 times more people online than you'll ever know face to face. That's just the times that we live in. Okay, so you've got an array of choices when it comes to networking, be it online, be it face to face. These are the sort of, I would say, national level and recognized sort of leaders in their field, I would argue, but it's just me. Chamber of Commerce, which I've already spoken about briefly, and which I'm a member of Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce. The Institute of Directors, which I happen to be a member of as well, and they have both national levels and regional levels. So I'm a member of the West Midlands IOD. And the Federation of Small, is anyone members of these already? Do you know about these? So just let me know if you are. If you are, then does that appear on your LinkedIn profile, I wonder? And I'm just thinking, does it appear on mine? So anyway, this is worth saying at the risk of embarrassing myself. So just bear that in mind. So the Federation of Small Businesses. Now I've got CBI in brackets. I recognise they are a national recognised body, but generally for really big businesses, so the FTSE 100, etc., would be a member of the CBI, not least of which because it's about 100k a year to be a member. And the reason I've mentioned them is that they're both national. There is a real purpose behind what they do. Now, it's not mandatory in this country to be a member of a Chamber of Commerce, as it is in Germany and in many countries throughout the world. It's mandatory because government needs to get their policies, their business policies, to the market as soon as possible, and they generally do that through chambers of commerce. It's not mandatory here. Okay, well done, Suzanne. But I would strongly encourage you to explore those, and lots of them will have new good deals for new members or newcomers or startups, if you like. For those particular bodies. So they have the ear of government. They can get the collective voice of how their membership is feeling, and they can. And Rishi Sunak has actually been fantastic at taking the ear of the Chamber of Commerce. A number of policies have come through supporting businesses in these extraordinary times. God, how often are we going to say that in the next few years? But anyway, so they also offer excellent networking. For me, that's 50% of their value, is the fact they have established networks that you can plug into. They also have a number of member benefits as well. Well, I'm not here to sell the Chamber of Commerce, but anyway, explore all of those, whatever suits you. So here's some private ones that are, which is BNI. I can't remember what it stands for, but most people will have heard of BNI. They are brilliant at what they do. Now, they are regimented. It almost feels like you're going to a military event run with precision, And if you're a newcomer, you will feel like, if I'm honest, you've been interrogated, because what they're actively pursuing is new members for their, and they are kind of really focused, shall we say, politely, when it comes to that. But they have specialist seats. So the idea is that if you're selling training services to, shall we say, for road haulage companies, they will have a spare seat on their panel or dedicated to you, and there won't be anyone else that does what you do in that group. They're quite careful that they avoid conflicts of interest or perceived. There may well be some overlap, but not a 100% overlap. So they're high performance. So they live for referrals, creating one-to-one meetings. They're really active, and they have power groups. So there might be a financial services power group or a property power group. They cost one of the more expensive options, somewhere between 600 and 1,000 a year, depending on which chapter you go to. But they have a particular culture which you will either love or not quite so much. They're a bit of a Marmite thing, but if you are of a particular persuasion, they're well worth looking at. Pathway to Grow is another one, which is national, but they're particularly active around the West Midlands. In fact, I think I've met a few of you there for the first time. They always have a guest speaker slot, and I've been privileged to be a guest speaker at one or two of those. They're free. They're a very gentle entree into the world of networking. They're very welcoming. There's a very strong social aspect to their meetings. They're free of charge. There's coffee and biscuits, which someone sponsors, and they're a fantastic way to practice your networking. But I've also won clients from those. From it as well, so it has real business value. In Yorkshire, where a few of you will be from, you'll be aware of the Yorkshire Business Network or Yorkshire Mafia. If I'm honest, I'm not well versed on those, and I'll do some more research on those. But they're well worth exploring in your area as well. You can Google free networking in my area, and it will come up with an array of different options. If you're on the South Coast, I believe there's a Hampshire Mafia too, well worth exploring. Okay, and Brummies, if you're in around, this is a highly respected, they get some really influential people, including my mentor, goes to Brummies, very active. They will almost certainly have, I don't know, Hampshire Hogs or something like that as well. And downtown in business are particularly north of London, Liverpool, Leeds, Manchester, Brum, and they have powerhouses as well for property in particular. They're well worth exploring. Okay, so a couple of personal examples. Client P, I heard about through reputation, is quite big in the West Midlands, and I targeted to meet this person at Chutney and Chat, which is one of those events. It's not free, but it's part of the Pathway to Grow's offer. We shook hands in the days when you could, and I followed up with a coffee. Now, he gave me a project at that meeting, that's unusual, to have a look at one of those, try before you buy, I suspect that was, or pay too much for. In one of his businesses, he's a well-known business leader, and that success in that project, although not hugely successful, because I persuaded him to sell the business, which cost me my own revenue line. But that was, morally, that was the right thing to do. It wasn't for him. He got out of that business, but he gave me 3 further projects in several of his other businesses and charities that from that one connection. Now, this is where the ROI comes in. So I won that first project, that smaller one in one of his micro business, after 8 months of networking. And that's about relationships and trust and reputation. It took 8 months. So don't go thinking, I went there once and didn't get any business. I'm sorry, that's the way of the world. I needed to go there. Now, it might only be 2 months or 3 months for you. It was 8 months for me. And the other example I've got is where I spoke. Someone came up to me, became a client. I've done a series of one-to-one sessions on sales strategy for their micro business. They've got a software company. There's a half a dozen or so of them, and I'm helping them out with some sales strategy and their go-to-market strategy in particular. Right, motoring on because we're almost at the end. We got that from them. We met for coffee afterwards. Rest is history. And that was 3 months after I'd done that speaker session. And you've got to be a member for about 6 months before you get that. So that was about 9 months after beginning with Pathway to Grow. There you go. Okay, so the wrap up. Excuse me. Remember, it takes time about building relationships. Go to where your customers are, or your routes to market. If you're looking for distributors, resellers, that kind of thing, or where your routes to market will be. Build your reputation, presence. People need to know what you stand for, who you are. There's nothing more tiresome than being in constant sales mode. I speak as a salesperson with pride in my profession, but don't be in constant sales mode. And fearful, of course. I was fearful that first time that I went to the Birmingham event of Solihull. They would never to be associated with Birmingham, but there was another conversation. Anyway, but action cures fear. Take action. Find someone friendly. There are many around. Mind if I join you? That's who's going to refuse that? It's so easy to say, so hard to refuse. Mind if I join you? Ask for a speaker slot if you're up for that. That declares ambition to the host. You've got something to say that's worth their audience listening to. And enjoy yourself. I'm a sociable person. But it takes practice, like all things. Enjoy yourself. Even if you don't get any business from that particular one, which you almost certainly won't, enjoy yourself. They're great things to be around. You will find something positive in every single one. Okay, so using the chat box, we are the last 30 seconds, and I apologize for running a bit over time. Last 30 seconds, where would you score yourself now on, shall we say, networking confidence? And while you're doing that, what one thing are you going to start doing? And what one thing are you going to stop doing as a result of having been through these, what I would say, they're probably reminders, because anyone over a certain age kind of knows this stuff at the unconscious level. You may not be consciously competent, if you like, if that's the right phrase. Okay, brilliant. So thank you for those answers there. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Ewan. Thank you, David and Suzanne. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. And yeah, excellent, Julia, as well. So wrapping up, for those of you who haven't, please don't be shy. Would love to see a recommendation, but only if you're comfortable and only if it's authentic. Don't just do it for the sake of it. Next webinar on Wednesday, exactly the same time next week, is going to be on LinkedIn. It's going to be the basics, because I believe if you master the basics, then the rest will come as a result. But getting the basics right is really, really important. Same time next week, 24th. There's a special Thrive in Sales podcast released today with Tim Clark. It's talking about mental health. We only recorded it last week, and I'm promoting it and releasing it early because I think it's that important to talk about mental health, particularly for younger fraternity, frankly, who this lockdown has impacted more than any other members of professional society, at least. So a special one with Tim Clark. You follow me on Eventbrite and you'll get updated for any events that I'm putting on. That would be fantastic. If I'm honest, I'm not taking questions, or if you want to take 30 seconds, by all means, type them out now and I'll come up with the answers. If you want to book a one-to-one, message me on LinkedIn. We'll work it out for next Monday or Tuesday. If there are any other subjects you'd like to hear about, let me know what they are. I'll be happy to put on a 1 hour freebie, and maybe I'll do a full-on workshop. I'll have to charge for that going forward, but we'll look at what other subjects you're interested in, what you'd like to discuss. And last of all, thank you. I'm sorry I've gone over time. I hope it's been worth it. Stay safe and stay distant in the meantime, and enjoy just a little bit of lockdown ease, if you like, in the coming few weeks. Thank you very much, Julia's kind comments. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And here we go. Hope you've enjoyed that.